The stars are right, and that means it's time for another episode of The Whisper in Darkness. I'm your host, the Man from Lang. Thank you very much for joining me today. On this episode, we are reviewing the Guardian cards in Into the Maelstrom, the 6th Mythos pack in the Innsmouth Conspiracy cycle. There are spoilers throughout if you care about that sort of thing. If you enjoy what you hear, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Before we get started, a quick reminder of how we rate cards here on The Whisper in Darkness. The best of the best get an Elder Sign, while the worst of the worst receive a Tentacle, and the cards in between receive a +1, 0, or Elder Thing, respectively. Before we get started, I'd like to thank the patrons of this channel for their tremendous support. Special thank you to Marcus Jarek, the latest patron to embrace the darkness. I was chatting with Marcus over on Patreon, and it sounds like he is a relatively new player who picked up the hobby during the COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you very much, Marcus, for your support. You are amazing. While I'm thanking people, I would also like to thank Bernard Godfrey, a longtime friend of the channel who recently rejoined Patreon. Thanks very much, Bernard. Your support is greatly appreciated. If you'd like to support the channel's goals and see your name on this list, head over to patreon.com, sign up for a tier of your choice, and claim your rewards. That would be awesome. Without further ado, let's get started. How are you doing, Nate?
I'm doing well, Man from Lang. How are you this fine afternoon?
I am doing okay. We have the final pack of the Innsmouth Conspiracy cycle to talk about. We're going to start things off, as always, with the Guardian cards. The first Guardian card in the pack is Hallow. It is a 3-cost event that costs 3 experience points. It has a Willpower and Wild skill icon, the Spell and Bless traits. As an additional cost to play Hallow, return a total of 10 Bless tokens to the token pool from the Chaos bag or sealed on cards in play. Remove 1 Doom from any card in play. I know that this card generated a lot of excitement when FFG released the preview for this Mythos pack, which seems like many months ago at this point. What do you think about this one, Nate?
It's interesting. It's finally another card that removes Doom from either the agenda or any other card in play. So that's interesting. When I first look at this card and try to compare it from the Survivor card from the previous pack, it's very, very strange that they made this cost 10 Bless tokens.
Yeah, it's the cards that remove Doom from play are pretty rare. I can think of only Moonlight Ritual, and I think Marie's signature event, Mystifying Song, will also do it. So, I mean, it's quite rare and quite powerful. I guess for me, the spell trait is nice because, of course, it synergizes with a lot of other cards, including Marie. It's got the Bless trait, so Mateo can take this. It's right in the right experience point area. It's got, there are probably ways that you could abuse this in multiplayer if you've got a lot of people packing the bag full of Bless tokens. And there is a combo with Tides of Fate, the Mystic card, that you can remove all curse tokens from the Chaos bag, replace them with Bless tokens, and then play this to remove all those Bless tokens and then remove a Doom as well. It's hard for me to get excited about a card like this just because while it's very thematic. I like the idea that, you're consecrating a space against the mythos and then thus you get to remove a Doom. This card, it feels kind of like a trap to me because honestly, I can think of only one game in the hundreds of games I've played where 1 Doom would have made a difference. And if you're playing a Mystic, who are the only class at this moment that really play around with adding extra Doom in play, they've already got a level 0 card that basically does everything they want. So why you would spend 3 experience points and, of course, having to pack your deck with the Bless tech in order to trigger it. Mystics don't really have the ability to add 10 Bless tokens besides some combo trickery. So yeah, I don't think I would I'm certainly not the player that this card is targeted at, for sure.
Yeah, it's very slow. Because it costs you the action and the resources and the experience, and then it also costs you whatever additional resources get you those 10 Bless tokens. And to get such a overall minor effect out of it is kind of unfortunate. I like that this can remove Doom from locations, though. That is nice because when that matters, that actually really matters. I think of like scenarios like Weaver of the Cosmos and Doom of Etzli, for instance, where removing Doom from locations can be really helpful. But I think aside from scenarios like that, this card is pretty unappealing to me too, Man from Lang. So I'm curious as to what you would rate this card.
Personally, I really want to give this an Elder thing just because it's the type of card I know that I'm probably just never going to purchase, and I just feel like it's most of the time, in like 99% of scenarios, one Doom is not going to be the difference between victory and defeat. And if I'm playing a Mystic and I need to remove Doom, I'm going to play Moonlight Ritual and save myself the experience, like 6 experience points to commit to this, plus all the bless tech that you need to really get it to work. It really feels like this is a multiplayer card, so I have to admit that it's probably not aimed at really at a solo player like myself. And I think the more I play with this sort of curse and bless mechanics, it feels like they're really more oriented to a multiplayer setting where you have multiple people stacking the bag. I think it's a little too slow in solo where you've got to do all the work yourself. That said, I think I'm going to give this one a 0 just because I think there's probably players out there who can find a use for this. I just don't think it's going to be me, and I don't think it's, compared to some of the bless cards that are available, I would far rather purchase those ahead of this one. So I think 0 is where I'm going to find myself. What about you?
Yeah, I'm kind of in a similar boat where I want to give this card a 0 just because there are times where removing Doom from locations or specific agendas can be useful. But I like by and large, this is a pretty minor effect, all things considered. And the fact that you have to put so much into it to get any benefit out of it is just a little too unappealing to me. I think even in multiplayer. So I would give this an Elder thing.
Yeah, I think this is one of those cards that sort of appeals to a player who likes to play tricky sorts of card combinations. And I think for even if I was playing multiplayer, I don't think this would be the card that I'd be reaching for. I compare this, it's a bad comparison, but I know like in multiplayer, you look at a card like the Gold Pocket Watch, which is like, if somebody's playing a rogue in multiplayer, somebody should probably be picking up the Gold Pocket Watch just because you're getting a full 12 actions out of, somebody triggers that. You're getting 12 actions, which is a huge value for the card. This, it's one Doom, and it's not really enough, I think, to warrant spending anywhere from 3 to 6 experience points. Maybe toward the end of a campaign, if you've got a few extra experience points and sort of, okay, the line between, say, one agenda and the next is you sort of need to say there are 4 agendas and you really need to beat the game before agenda 4 hits. Well, then maybe something like this becomes more valuable. But I think for most run-of-the-mill scenarios, the Doom thresholds they give are pretty good. I can't think of many scenarios where it's just like, man, this is so tight, like it just goes down to the last Doom every game. I don't think there are many scenarios like that.
Yeah, and Doom only matters when you're advancing. So, by and large, there isn't really much that interacts with it aside from the agenda advancing. So, you really, most of the time, don't have to worry about it. So,
the second Guardian card in the pack is Holy Spear. It is a 4-cost asset that costs 5 experience points. It has a willpower and 2 combat skill icons, the item, weapon, melee, and bless traits. As an action, you may fight. You get +2 combat and deal +1 damage for this attack. When you initiate this ability, you may release a sealed bless token on the Holy Spear. And as an action, you may search the Chaos Bag for 2 bless tokens and seal them on Holy Spear. Fight, you get +4 combat and deal +2 damage for this attack. The Holy Spear takes up the both hand slots. Now, Flamethrower has been the one of the guardian weapons of choice since I believe it was Shattered Aeons that came out in. What do you think about the Holy Spear, Nate?
I think this is the big guardian bless payoff. Obviously, this card seems pretty good. Even just +2 and 1 is a solid boost in damage and in combat, and then being able to just seal a couple of tokens, which is very easy to get in Guardian or Survivor. You seal a couple tokens, and then you can really punch things in the mouth. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, and you throw you have the option of throwing Enchant Weapon on top of this if you're really concerned about needing the relic trait to deal with ghosts or poltergeists and whatnot. Even the bonus damage from that, you throw Vicious Blow in here, you've got now you're up to 4 damage with a shot. Doesn't use ammo like a lot of the big guns out there, which is always nice, so you can just keep on swinging. If you're playing somebody like Sister Mary, I mean, you're just going to be adding bless tokens to the bag all the time, so you should have an ample supply. The only really sort of negative thing I can think about this card is that, one, it takes up both hand slots, so it's a little awkward to use if you're playing solo, because you do sort of need, depending on your build, 2 hand slots is not ideal. Then you're looking at cards like Bandolier, which slow things down a little bit and make juggling cards like Flashlight and whatnot with this. In multiplayer, that's not a big deal, since, I mean, if you're probably the dedicated monster killer, and so having this in your disposal is all you really need. And the only other thing is say if you end up in a situation where you don't have a lot of bless tokens available, then you've spent a lot of experience for a card that isn't that much better than an upgraded Enchanted Blade, but that's really a minor quibble, because if you're playing this, then you really should be all in on the bless deck. Plus, if you're playing multiplayer, you may have another person at the table who's stocking the bag with bless tokens as well. So you're able to consistently swing for, +4 combat and +2 damage at the bare minimum with this thing.
Yeah, and comparing this to Flamethrower, I think that was kind of the generic like guardian weapon of choice before this card came out, is that at least this gives you the option of playing Bandolier, whereas Flamethrower doesn't. But this is much better at single target damage, whereas Flamethrower is able to kind of spread the damage around. So that's something to consider. But yeah, I think apart from that, this is a very solid weapon if you have enough people around the table either feeding the bag full of bless tokens, or even if you just generate a few and you just use this for a couple big attacks towards the end of a scenario or something, I feel like you would feel pretty satisfied with having this in your deck over other weapons.
Yeah, it is nice that you can sort of save the tokens on here as well. So if you are playing sort of minimal bless, minimal cards that add bless tokens, say you're not playing Sister Mary, you want to use this in somebody else, and you just want to add a few bless tokens, you can actually get them out of the bag and get them on this, and then save them for when you actually need them, and then you do have the option of releasing them back in and then sealing them again. So you can prevent, if tokens are a little more scarce, maybe you haven't drawn the cards you need to add bless tokens or whatnot, you can sort of save them on here until an emergency situation when you need them. So that's pretty nice, instead of It's like just throwing blessed tokens in the bag and then suddenly having that one turn where you draw all of the blessed tokens, and then you're kind of like, well, now what am I going to do? I've got this amazing spear that I can't really leverage. So how would you rate this one?
I would give this a pretty solid +1, honestly. This is definitely, I think, the Guardian's best payoff for investing into the bless mechanic, and it's a good card. I think even aside from that, if you don't necessarily dedicate into it, but you have somebody at the table that's able to put enough tokens in the bag and doesn't mind you using them, this is a very solid upgrade.
Yeah, that's a good point. If you are playing in multiplayer and you're not playing bless yourself, then chances are you can. If somebody else is at the table, then this is still a pretty good choice for you if you're looking to upgrade.
And the only other caveat that I would say is that if you're playing a campaign like Dream Eaters or other scenarios that just kind of have tons of enemies on the board at once, this isn't going to be the best option for you as you deal large chunks of damage rather than being able to spread the damage around like Flamethrower. So,
yeah,
well, I do think it is very nice. It's just something to keep in mind versus Flamethrower.
Yeah, they're different tools for different jobs. If you're expecting to face a lot of different enemies, then Flamethrower is probably a better choice. If you know there's one boss that you need to take down, then you can't really go wrong with stabbing it with a Holy Spear multiple times.
Yeah, I like the line of play where you maybe kill one enemy by sealing 2 tokens on it, and then towards the end of a scenario, you fight once, release a token, fight again, release the second token, third action, fight again with the big hit. And that's 2, 4, 7 damage.
Yeah.
And that's before adding things like Vicious Blow or Grutta or anything like that. So yeah, this is a very solid card.
Very good against those single targets for sure. That's going to do it for our look at the Guardian cards in Into the Maelstrom. We had Hallow and Holy Spear. Nate and I disagree a little bit about Hallow. He gave it an Elder thing, and I gave it a 0. But Holy Spear gets a +1 from both of us. How would you? Any final thoughts, Nate?
I think the Guardians have very interesting options for going into the bless mechanic, where they can either kind of play this more supporting role and use Hallow to kind of mitigate the mythos, and use things like Righteous Smite to kind of keep enemies at bay, or they can go kind of that full fighter build that usually Guardians tend to go towards, and then play Holy Spear and leverage the bless tokens that way, which is cool. So I like the Guardian bless card pool, I think, overall.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to play with the Guardian bless mechanics yet. I've only played a couple of games with Sister Mary, but I do like many of the bless cards that they have received over the cycle. So I think it looks like a lot of fun to play, especially if you can get. People love big weapons like Holy Spear, and so it's nice that there's some sort of payoff at the end for Guardians who want to go down that road. That's going to do it for this episode. If you enjoyed what you hear, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. If you need to contact me, I can be reached at manfromlang@gmail.com. I'm also on Twitter at manfromlang. Until the stars are right, keep your shotgun close and your elder sign closer. Take care out there, and happy investigating.